Welcome back to Clubhouse Confidential, presented by the U.S. Army. Back now with Jay Jaffe of Sports Illustrated and Mike Petriello of Fangraphs. Dan Haren, fellas, 1 year, $10 million to the Dodgers. Sounds altogether reasonable, doesn't it? How does this happen, Mike? You're the aficionado of the Dodgers. How does this happen?
I think it partially happens because of location. I mean, he went to Washington last year, and he had such a hard time being away from his family. And he went on the disabled list with what was called shoulder soreness, and it was really almost a mental health break. He comes back in the second half, drops his ERA by 3 runs, has an 84-14 strikeouts to walk. I think it's phenomenal. For the Dodgers to get him for 1 year, there's no risk. You don't give up a player, you don't give up a draft pick, you don't even give up a guaranteed second year. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, since the start of July, Jay, I mean, he's got, you can see right there, like the last 15 starts, an ERA in the low threes, and this guy's got quite a track record. How is it 1 year, $10 million? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, say, Josh Johnson getting $8 million for a year for a guy who hasn't been able to stay on the mound nearly as much. I mean, Haren, even when he's been hurt, he's, or been having these rough periods the last couple of years, he's been able to get out there for 30 starts, and that has some value, too. ERA's, around 4.5. To me, this is a guy who maybe takes some time to really get back into his vintage form. His second halves have been stronger than his first halves in both of the last 2 years. For a team that doesn't really need him to be, one of their front three guys, this is a nice gamble to have, and they've got some depth to maybe give him that break in the middle of the season that could bring him back strong in the second half.
And I see, too, when you compare it to, again, everything now is going to be compared to Jason Vargas, right? When you say it's like, wow, $8 million a year, 4 years, and like, how does he get that? Is this an example of a guy that just you couldn't get to Kansas City?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think he didn't want to go probably anywhere other than the Angels and the Dodgers, maybe somewhere else on the West Coast. I'd rather have him for $10 million than Tim Lincecum for 2 years and $35 million.
Yeah,
you can argue.
I like this deal over everything. So I disagree with that. Kansas City, throw money at people. The guys respond to money. Right? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Throw money at people, but Jason Vargas isn't the right guy to throw money at.
Correct. Right. Another subject. All right. Here's my question now. The Rays re-signed Jose Molina. Now again, if pitch framing is so big, Ben Lindbergh of Baseball Prospectus said Jose Molina is the Babe Ruth of pitch framing. If he's that great, how come teams aren't throwing $5 million a year at this guy and get him out of Tampa Bay?
I am kind of surprised that they're not. But let's face it, the Rays have been ahead of the curve when it comes to finding the places to get that extra value. They've probably built up a pretty good relationship with Jose Molina. This could represent something of a hometown discount, given his comfort level with them and vice versa. I think this is a very good deal for them. It could be one of the best in the winter.
What do you think, Mike?
I think that he is getting paid for that because he's about to be 39. He can't hit, he can't run, he can't really do anything except for pitch framing, and he got a raise. He's getting the biggest contract of his entire career. I think he's being valued for that, and I think it's going to take some time for pitch framing to be more accepted, throughout baseball. But like Jay said, the Rays are really on the ball.
Oh, those guys know it, though, right? Is he fairly valued now? Do you think this is about right for him?
I think it is. I mean, $4.5 million for a guy who can't hit, who is a very good defensive backstop at 39. I think that's fine for both sides.
All right, the other signing again doesn't sound like a huge deal or anything. It was Joe Smith, 3 years at $5 million per. Nice work with the Indians, right? Over the last 3 years, got a 2.42 ERA. What do you think of that deal?
Very durable reliever. Not a guy who misses a ton of bats, but generates a lot of ground balls. Given that he's a side armor, he gives you a different look out of the bullpen. Doesn't have a huge platoon split for a guy who does that, though. And I think that's one thing that you're definitely paying for there. I think this is a reasonable deal.
What do you think, Mike?
I think he's fine. I think he'll help that team. I think we all agree that 3-year deals for relievers are generally a bad idea, and he's not really elite in any one thing. He's very good at a lot of things. Even his ground ball rate dropped by 10% last year. So it's an odd way for them to be spending $15 million, I think.
The Angels. Don't you think they need to stockpile guys? I mean, everybody needs to stockpile guys like this. You don't get this one. It's not, oh, look, we got Joe Smith, but you get 2 or 3 other guys just like him, and now you're powerful.
Yeah, that bullpen has been a particular sore spot for the Angels the last few years. We know how much Mike Scioscia, in general, has relied on those bullpens when those Angels teams were successful.
You could, on this class alone, Mike, get a whole, bullpen. Now you're going to have some risk reward. Some guys are not going to succeed. But why don't teams just assault the relief market? Get 5 of them. Why not?
I think you could, but you'd end up spending, this kind of annual value for this guy. I mean, you could argue that Joe Smith isn't better than Wilton Lopez. And, who really cares about Wilton Lopez? He's a guy you can, maybe not a non-roster guy, but you can get him for, maybe a fifth of what they just spent on Joe Smith. There are more effective ways to do this.
What, getting out guys out of your own system, too? You can get guys like this?
Absolutely, or even on the waiver wire. I mean, Joe Smith's better than a waiver wire guy. I mean, he'll help, but, $15 million for a guy who's good but not great, it's a weird way for a team that really needs rotation.
You're paying for the durability there, and the recent track record of like 60-some-odd games per year for the last few years. That's what you're really rewarding here.
Yeah. Are we fans of what the Angels have done so far?
I mean, I still think. I mean, they need to do a lot more to make themselves into contenders again. They've got to shore up that rotation. This doesn't solve that. Neither did the acquisition of David Freese. It helps, at third base. It clears up some of the outfield logjam. But still, I mean, they've got a ways to go before you can consider them to be a team that's going to threaten in the AL West.
All right. Yeah. Years and years. Jay, Mike, thank you very much. Jay Jaffe, Mike Petriello joining us here on Clubhouse. Clubhouse Confidential. Oh, by the way, a lot of fans and players torn over that Johnny Peralta signing right after his drug-related suspension. We might need the rogue commissioner to straighten a few people out. We're breaking out the rogue next.
Clubhouse Confidential.